Most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat. I'm with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Prayed for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new disposition. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the other world. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you always for taking the time to be with us this evening as we speak about all things esoteric and cover truth, unlike most people have insight and are able to examine. And so it's a always an honor and a privilege to be able to share the things that I've come to know and the things that I've been blessed with in discernment. And I thank you always for the fellowship that you share with me. And tonight we're going to have an awesome show. There's going to be a few things that I wanted to share with you and bring up. And specifically, we're going to talk about just for a few minutes about Bitcoin and about the movement and the momentum that it has gained over the last 7 days. Even the chart, as I talked about maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, um, was that we were building a base on top of the resistance which had held us down, and that we were now moving and had taking and we're about to gain momentum with in regard to the moving average, and that this was a really good sign for the crypto markets and for Bitcoin specifically. And since that time, in 7 days, Bitcoin has elevated in price 21.81%. I mean, that's really amazing, and it's good to see that we are returning to what is and seems to be the beginning of a bull market. And it's been a while for those that have been involved in cryptocurrencies. There has been bear market sentiment for all of two and a half years now, and that the elevation of Bitcoin in price going from 16,000 to 60,000 took place in what seems like a moonshot. If you look at the charts, and actually let me do that. And as I said, I'm not going to talk about this for a very long time, but I do want to mention it because I think it's important, and that for those of you that have been listening to our shows, we have been covering this for a very long time. And I'm not, again, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and I am not trying to tell you what to do with your money. But with regard to the crypto markets, and they're still being so new and the structure being developed, um, I think it's wise for those of us that are, you know, well diversified into many things and those that have been also um, investing in gold and silver for a very long time, that Bitcoin definitely is digital gold. And people have asked me, as to what kind of cryptocurrencies I would be going into and buying into and all of that. And I personally, even though I'm very familiar with a lot of cryptos, I choose to be a Bitcoin and Ethereum maximalist. And I think that those two cryptocurrencies have sustainability and longevity built into them, and that they have a following which I believe will see them gain in price and momentum when a lot of other things may not. And a lot of the alternative cryptocurrencies are down very heavily. And many of them, I think, are going to be really good buys at some point, and that they're going to make big gains in similarity to what we see Bitcoin having done in the past 7 days. And so, again, not financial advice, but I do think that wherever you can, those of you that want to participate, that have um, some money that you can just put into and not worry about it, and not even, be concerned if it were to go down in value, which I don't think. I think we have turned a corner, and that what we are seeing is a rally now, that the indicators are suggesting that with the relative strength index, the RSI, and the MACD, which those are just crypto indicators, they are showing that momentum is gaining, uh, and people are realizing and are buying into. Um, However, that being said, I do think that there's going to be a push downwards over the next couple of days, and that we're going to see a slight correction. I do think that 30,000 is going to be the base, and that as long as we hold and stabilize and build momentum on top of that, that we should see a bull run into the future. And, for those of you that are hodlers, and those that, uh, hodlers meaning, um, holding on and holding um, at all costs, and not, buying and selling and trading, which most people that are into cryptocurrencies, uh, most of them are holders of Bitcoin and are holding on for dear life, which is, the whole term of hodling. But um, and so, anyways, as I spoke about even just a couple of weeks ago, I think that momentum is shifting, and that what we are coming up to is the beginning of what will be an extended bull market, and that, many of you have already missed like I said, a 20% move, but that doesn't mean there is not more upside. Um, and so we will see. We will see. And I think that, with the banking crisis, with the amount of debt that we have here in America, and the dollar being um, inflated and losing value, and that the commercial and residential real estate market topping off, and there being a surplus, that things are, as far as the S&P, the Dow Jones, they are being, they're at the what seems to be the top end of the market, and that there's a correction coming in some manner, but that Bitcoin, even though it used to correlate with the stock markets and um, the S&P, I think there's a divergence now, in that people realize that being able to place your wealth, or at least a part of your portfolio, that there's an ETF, a Bitcoin ETF, about to come out here in America, and that when that happens, a lot of money could enter into the market and support cryptocurrencies in a way that has not been possible previously, and that a lot of Wall Street money entering into the market, because the whole cryptocurrency market is only $1 trillion right now, 1.25 trillion, and we've seen the 0.25 trillion enter just over the last couple of weeks, and it's driven prices up 21% in Bitcoin, and so. But I do think there's going to be a continuance, because people are wanting to get into Bitcoin, because you cannot just print. There's only ever going to be 21 million, and we are approaching what is called a halving event, which means that there will be even less Bitcoin available on the market, and that the supply will be diminished even further. And the demand is only increasing. The infrastructure that is developed and being and has been stabilized around cryptocurrencies for now, what seems, since 2009, when Bitcoin was introduced to the world. um, People are now trustworthy and are more of believers in the possibility that Bitcoin will hold value, and that people are and have seen and are experiencing this. And so, anyways, tonight we're going to go into what is the second portion of the Apocalypse of Baruch, and we're going to spend some more time talking about the end time narratives and what we see with Jerusalem being a cup of trembling amongst the nations, the things that we have been talking about and covering here on this channel for a very long time with regard to prophecy, that this is also specific to the book, The Great Commission 3, which is the third book of a series on the Acts and the Gospels of the Apostles, and what the Messiah, what the Savior told them and instructed them about what would be the signs of his return. And people are familiar with Luke chapter 21, Matthew chapter uh, 24, Mark chapter 13, that these portions of the gospel speak about and cover what is the details of what the Messiah told to them with regard to the end of the age and to his second advent. And we know those that study prophecy and, and understand about the blooming of the fig tree and how this is connected to Israel, that the blooming of the fig tree was the big sign for our generation and for the world. And for those that study prophecy and have studied it for a long time, as to who and where we are as the last generation and those that would be alive for what would be the prophetic fulfillment of all prophecy and all scripture. And so tonight this is a follow up to the show that I did on the Apocalypse of Baruch just a few weeks back, and which, you know, a lot of people are not familiar with some of these end time narratives, especially those that have been compiled into the Great Commission 3, which are specific for the fig tree generation and cover a lot of information that, when studied, when examined, will give you more of a clear discernment on what is revealed in the book of Revelation. And with regard to the book of Daniel, the coming of the Antichrist, the beast system, the whole setup which leads to the New World Order and to one world government. And those of you that have studied, that have read the scripture and are interested in prophecy, you know that you should be familiar with, in the same way that, we're talking about Bitcoin and the indicators that show that we're moving into a time of bullish momentum where people should change their sentiment, and instead of holding a bearish posture and embedding on the market going down, that things are shifting and switching the other way. And so those that are, able to read the signs, see the signs and interpret them, that this is what the charts are saying for the short term, at least the short term, medium term future of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency markets. And so, in the same way as you learn to read the indicators, which tell you what's coming in ahead, and if you are able to interpret the charts, in the same way, one should be able to read and study and familiarizing oneself with the scripture and with prophecy as it has been shared, as it has been preserved and passed down, because we are the inheritors of that legacy. But one can study, look into, and examine the things that have been written, the things that have been said, and which have been passed down in forecasts. That in reading and studying this information, you should also, in similarity, be able to interpret the signs of the end and what is leading to those things which have said and have been told to us as to what will be fulfilled and what will lead to the other dominoes, those that are set preceding and following. All right, let me open the chat. Let me just open the live stream here. And for those that are not familiar, maybe are new to the channel, new to the work that we do, you can always find the live streams on Zen Garcia, the YouTube channel where we publish a lot of our work. And I just want to again thank all of you that take the time to join us. We are so appreciative of all of your um, support, and it's a beautiful thing to fellowship and to share time and space with you. And I do again believe that you guys have a lot of discernment, and as I share a lot of information with you, you are doing the same with me, and I am learning much from you as well. And I hope that all of you are blessed wherever you may be, and that you're not suffering. You don't have to endure um, any uncertainties. Thank you, Paladin. I really appreciate that. Um, it's, I love to share the scriptures, and I love that many of you also love to read and to study those things that we have compiled, put together, and have released to all of you. And I want to thank you all for, for praying for me as well, and good health and well-being. And I am trying, in the best way that I can to stay of good strength, good health. Oh, thank you, Shay. That's very kind. She says, thank you for hosting, brother. You are saving lives. And the comment Paladin said that best channel on YouTube. I appreciate that as well. And I pray that we can continue utilizing this platform to share in discernment and to uh, study together those things we have been blessed to do. And also, need to make an announcement with regard to the Digital Readers Club on our Saturday fellowship, which, those of you that are familiar with our work and that study, that I determine Sabbaths and the feast days according to the uh, cycle and the phases of the moon. And so, but we do every Saturday is like our Sabbath reading, even though I know that Sabbath fluctuates according to the phases of the moon, and that they are aligned with the first quarter, the full, the third quarter, and um, the lunar conjunctive moon, and that Sabbath and also the feast days are always determined and indicated by the appearance of the waxing crescent. All right, I'm going to sip some water. We'll be right back. Okay, thank you, Jamali. I appreciate that. And thanks all of you that listen in while you're doing what you're doing. That is also a great blessing for all of us. But as I said, I wanted to go into what is the next portion of the Apocalypse of Baruch. And this is after the Most High delivers the news to him that Baruch is going to pass away and that this is following what is the destruction of Jerusalem and where the people were taken into exile. That Baruch, Jeremiah, the prophet, who had been speaking to and telling Hezekiah for a very long time that um, Jerusalem was going to be destroyed, and he did not, was unwilling to listen and to hear. And because of that, his eyes were taken from him, and his family was killed. And that's a very unfortunate thing. One must learn always, and this is the task of the people, is to hear the voice of the prophets and to heed what they share as watchmen and watchwomen, because that responsibility is on the people in the same way that they are tasked with sharing the truth and the discernment and the signs of the times. That the watchmen, the watchmen do not want the blood of the innocents to be leveled on their head. And so, knowing that we are given in parable, we are told to do what we can to share the truth with all who would listen. And as long as we take that task to heart, that we are not going to be responsible for the choices of others if they choose to ignore the warnings of others when it comes to the signs of the times. And so the prayer of Baruch. And for those that want to follow along, this is chapter 48, verses 1 through 47. And it came to pass after the seventh day that I prayed before the Mighty One and said, O my Lord, you summon the advent of the times, and they stand before you. You cause the power of the ages to pass away, and they do not resist you. You arrange the method of the seasons, and they obey you. You alone know the duration of the generations, and you reveal not your mysteries to many. You make known the multitude of the fire, and you weigh the lightness of the wind. You explore the limit of the heights, and you scrutinize the depths of the darkness. You care for the number which pass away, that they may be preserved, and you prepare an abode for those that are to be. You remember the beginning which you have made and the destruction that is to be. You forget not. With nods of fear and indignation, you command the flames and they change into spirits. And with a word you quicken that which was not. And with mighty power you hold that which has not yet come. You instruct created things in the understanding of you, and you make wise the spheres so as to minister in their orders. Armies innumerable stand before you, and minister in their orders quietly at your nod. Hear your servant and give ear to my petition, for in a little time are we born, and in a little time do we return. But with you hours are as a time, and days as generations. Be not therefore wroth with man, for he is nothing, and take not account of our works, for what we are. For lo, by your gift do we come into the world, and we depart not of our own will. For we said not to our parents, beget us, nor did we send to Sheol and say, receive us. What therefore is our strength that we should bear your wrath? Or what are we that we should endure your judgment? Protect us in your compassion, and in your mercy help us. Behold the little ones that are subject unto you, and save all that draw near unto you, and destroy not the hope of our people, and cut not short the times of our aid. For this is the nation which you have chosen, and these are the people to whom you find no equal. But I will speak now before you, and I will say as my heart thinks. In you do we trust, for lo, your law is with us. And we know that we shall not fall so long as we keep your statutes. To all time are we blessed at all events, in this that we have not mingled with the Gentiles. For we are all one celebrated people, who have received one law from one, and the law which is amongst us will aid us, and the surpassing wisdom which is in us will help us. And when I had prayed and said these things, I was greatly weakened. And he answered and said unto me, you have prayed simply, O Baruch, and all your words have been heard. But my judgment exacts its own, and my law exacts its rights. For from your words I will answer you, and from your prayer I will speak to you. For this is as follows. He that is corrupted is not at all. He has both wrought iniquity so far as lie could do anything, and has not remembered my goodness, nor accepted my long suffering. Therefore you shall surely be taken up, as I before told you. For that time shall arise which brings affliction, for it shall come and pass by with quick vehemence, and it shall be turbulent coming in the heat of indignation. And it shall come to pass in those days that all the inhabitants of the earth shall be moved one against another, because they know not that my judgment has drawn nigh. For there shall not be found many wise at that time, and the intelligent shall be but a few. Moreover, even those who know shall most of all be silent, and there shall be many rumors and tidings, not a few, and the doing of phantasms shall be manifest, and promises not a few be recounted. Some of them shall prove idle, and some of them shall be confirmed. And honor shall be turned into shame, and strength humiliated into contempt, and probity destroyed, and beauty shall become ugliness. And many shall say to many at that time, where hath the multitude of intelligence hidden itself? And whither hath the multitude of wisdom removed itself? And whilst they are meditating these things, then envy shall arise in those who had not thought aught of themselves. And passion shall seize him that is peaceful. And many shall be stirred up in anger to injure many, and they shall rouse up armies in order to shed blood, and in the end they shall perish together with them. And it shall come to pass at the self same time that a change of times shall manifestly appeal to every man, because in all those times they polluted themselves, and they practiced oppression, and walked every man in his own works, and remembered not the law of the mighty one. Therefore a fire shall consume their thoughts, and in flames shall the meditations of their reins be tried. For the judge shall come and will not tarry, because each of the inhabitants of the earth knew when he was transgressing. But my law they knew not by reason of their pride. But many shall then assuredly weep. Yea, over the living more than over the dead. And I answered and said, O Adam, what have you done to all those who are born from you? And what will be said to the first Eve who hearkened to the serpent? For all this multitude are going to corruption, nor is there any numbering of those whom the fire devours. But again I will speak. In your presence, you, O Lord, my Lord, know what is in your creature. For you did of old command the dust to produce Adam, and you know the number of those who are born from him, and how far they have sinned before you, who have existed and not confessed you as their creator. And as regards all these, their end shall convict them, and your law which they have transgressed shall requite them on your day. I just want to highlight a couple things here that I think are important. And it shall come to pass in those days that all the inhabitants of the earth shall be moved one against another, because they know not that my judgment has drawn nigh. For there shall not be found many wise at that time, and the intelligent shall be but a few. Moreover, even those who know shall most of all be silent, and there shall be many rumors and tidings, not a few, and the doing of phantasms shall be manifest, and promises not a few be recounted. Phantasms manifest. There shall not be found many wise at that time. The inhabitants of the earth shall be moved one against another. I mean, this is where we are. The occurrence of the occult is so heavy upon the generations that are alive today, and their involvement, their willingness to involve themselves in relationship with demonic entities. And also that so many are living in a world and in situations where they are having difficulty. The outreach of social media and people's attempt to utilize it and its means to popularize certain individuals, and how some are really being bullied on those platforms, and how kids are isolated now where they may not have interaction with others beyond their computers. And the outreach of Facebook, the and it's it's unfortunate that people are trying to navigate and to utilize these kinds of tools. Not saying they can't be beneficial, because certainly they can, and a lot of people have made, really good incomes and have become influential in positive manner. But there are also so many that are being terrorized by the worlds, the internet worlds that they live in. And that's an unfortunate thing. I remember when I was in school, when I was younger, and I was, my father was in the military, and so we would travel to different parts of the world. I lived in Korea, in Okinawa, in Germany, in different portions of the world. And I was always a minority because my mother was Korean and my father was Apache Indian, and so, or Native, Native American. And I was odd, it was hard for me to fit in. And I didn't realize when I was younger as to what racism was and how people would judge you or treat you according to what they thought about your skin or your culture or your civilization, that a lot of people, especially if they're different, odd from what is the majority or what is the norm of that culture, that society, that others are really treated differently. And it's a unfortunate thing that in times past and even times present, that there's so much even violence and judgment that people could hate others and mistreat them, simply because they're different, and that people are also willing to attack children, hurt and harm children, or harass, others, call them names and mistreat them just because of differences. And that's a really an unfortunate thing. It seems ignorance to me. But again, when you're the kids, and you see a lot of this, that so many people have been bullied in their lives. And most people are not going to be the popular, the beautiful people, those that are featured on magazines, the movie stars and musicians and things like that, and then people that have skill or capacity to command an audience or to um, for whatever way or reason they are either beauty or whatever they have some kind of appeal, whether they're funny, whatever it is that people really like them and they gain in popularity that 90% of people don't fit into those categories. And um, we see even in this day and age that a lot of young girls, unless they look like those that are on magazines, they may have eating disorders or they may be starving themselves or, that they're trying to fit into an image that is not real for most of the world. And, I think that we should all love each other and one another where we are. And this is a difficult thing that a lot of people have difficulty in acceptance of themselves, and it's causing problems. And I really feel for people that are picked on. Oh yes, Shelley, I fully agree. She says I look into the my grandchildren's eyes and can't imagine anyone abusing any child. Yeah, that does not make sense to me either, and it would really infuriate me uh, for my grandchildren to be mistreated in any way. Or any child, none of us wants to see anybody harmed. That's the crazy thing about how the elites treat even their own children. It does not make sense to any of us, and many of us are, confused as to why these kinds of things are, pedophiles and the mistreatment of children, how the scriptures tell us that it would be better for you never to have been born than to harm a child or one of the innocent, one of the youth, the children of the world. And the scriptures tell us that. And yeah, I think that God supports life and he certainly protects the children and loves the children. And we are children of the Most High. But again, there is a bloodline, a lineage dedicated to evil. There is a children of the devil here in the world with us, and they have an inclination for evil that we can't understand, we can't make sense of. It's like, when God told Cain that if you would just do good, you would be treated well. And then when he killed his brother, he asked him, where is your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? When he fully had just slaughtered him in the field and let his blood spill. And doing that, his blood was calling out from the ground. And we see in the book of Enoch that Abel was before the Most High and that he was wanting to convict and to bring judgment against Cain for what he had did in killing him and slaughtering all those that could have been born from him. Anyways, we are at break. I'll be right back for second hour.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution. We will not comply with the institution's sick illusion. No, it won't be televised. Welcome to the revolution.
Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world. As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
I love motherhood more than I could have ever imagined. One of the most important things to me is nurturing a strong foundation in Yahusha's character in our children. That said, I made sheets that went over the fruits of the Spirit, the armor of God, the 10 Commandments, and creation days. Each day at breakfast, we would go over these and then read books like Cat in the Hat that just felt so void in meaning, but they loved the rhymes. I looked everywhere for rhyming biblical principles and couldn't find any. That's when I decided I would make them myself. Praise God, we now have our first book, Eliana and Ezra's Journey Through the Fruits of the Spirit, a first in a series. Every morning we now can continue to build strong principles even through rhymes, and I wanted to offer it to the babies in your life too. Please go to Sacred Word Publishing and search Fruits of the Spirit to get your copy, or you can go to prophecyforchildren.com. Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everybody, for second hour. I am your host, Zen Garcia. This is Momentary Zen here on Revolution Radio, and it is crazy, but we have been on the air since 2008. My first interview was in 2006, and then I started a show in 2007, but it was in 2008 that we actually started doing, like interviews and weekly shows. And I remember at that time too that this was the beginning of Blog Talk Radio, and there was a lot of other shows and a lot of other people that were coming up with their own shows and doing their own broadcasts, and that one of the most and the people that I connected a lot with at that time were those that were doing shows on the fallen angels and the giants and speaking about the strange technology and the mysteries, the ancient mysteries and the mythologies. But that was a hot topic that everybody wanted to know and to learn more about the Nephilim, the giants, and the truth that was contained within the word about what these deities were and how they were responsible and how their involvement, their interdiction into the affairs of humanity brought on this, what was the presence of evil. And that's also one of the most difficult things for people to make sense of, is why God, would allow evil, and then they blame, because they're not able to understand or make sense of the presence of evil in the world. They will blame God or say that, the Most High doesn't exist. And that to me is just absolutely bizarre, because I just, but it is a journey that a lot of people in their journey to awakening, they question everything. And I was that way. But it is difficult for me to not see the signature of the Most High, the pre-existent Godhead, which includes, in my belief, the feminine Holy Spirit, to not see the representation of them and the Holy Family in everything that exists within the world, within the creation, that without a doubt, I understand intelligent design and can't make sense of how or why people buy into evolution and accept that as a logical explanation for how the world got to be where it is. that, people believe that DNA could just randomly occur of chaotic circumstance, or that all creatures, began with a single cell amoeba, and that the muck and the grime of some swampland created the life, which then eventually crawled out onto the land and spread wings and flew up into the air. And it seems crazy to me, but this is what they teach in school. And look at all the kids that accept and buy into and believe in evolution because of it being repeated and sold to them, that they've been indoctrinated, brainwashed into such madness. Also, I wanted to let you know that I decided that I'm going to work on a book of poetry, and I today wrote a poem for the first time in a very long time, and the name of the poem was "The Madhouse," and I equated to something that I talked about in the Digital Readers Club this past weekend. And that's another thing that I wanted to bring forth, is that we are and have finished reading through the Vestures of Light. We did the final show, and we had a long conversation where we fellowshiped with one another and talked about just the things that we've come to know. And I talked about how the world to me seems like a madhouse, and that the people that have discovered the truth, they're at the door leading out, and they're trying to get people to leave the insanity of what's going on inside and to walk out and to watch the sunrise, and to just see the beauty of what is going on outside, and how the Creator made the world for us, and that all this is going on out there. And yet, people are inside watching the white noise that's of the television, that's placed center stage like on an altar. It's the idol that's worshipped, and which most people pay attention to, and others are bouncing their heads off the walls, and people are fighting, feuding with one another, trying to destroy each other, beat each other because of differences, as I was talking about earlier. And that the dissonance of the matrix of illusion, which has led all people astray. It's this that consumes and hides people from the truth, leading them astray. And there's the few that, the seekers of lost paradise. And we're all gathered together at the open door. And we are going out, coming back in and going out, and trying to help others to understand there's a whole other world out here, and that the door is Christ, that he is the way, the truth, and the light, that God took on mortal form in order to tabernacle with us, to restore the fall and to lead us home and to restore us to our first estate. That's the beauty of the promise of the Creator and the creation. And yet, people are like, close the door, you're letting the flies in. Or, close the door, there's a draft, or there's too much light, whatever it is, I mean, that keeps them locked away and hidden from the truth. That's the madness. All right. Let me check the chat again. Oh, we have a question from Shay. That's a really good question. All right. Shay asks, is crypto a better option than silver? Well, I think that it depends on how much you're trying to invest and what you are trying to do with that investment. Because I think that crypto, if you were trying to maneuver or to, if you were ever having to leave the country, or you were trying to preserve a good amount of wealth, that crypto is the way to go, because you don't have to carry weight. You don't have to worry about thieves. Well, to some degree, but you don't have to worry about, people, like if you were crossing borders and you were going from one place to the other. I think it's the easiest way to carry and to hide an investment. You just have to worry about 16 words, in regard to a wallet, and that you could gain access with a computer anywhere in the world if you were to do that. But I think diversity is the best way. And I think actually silver is an extraordinary investment. And I do believe that both silver and gold will increase in value and have been. I've been, I don't anymore, because my kids tell me that I don't need to buy anymore, as far as silver and precious metals. But I think diversity is the smartest thing, and that silver is an excellent, excellent investment. I mean, $25 an ounce, if that's still what it is. I should actually look it up. And I know gold has been climbing. And so I think that gold, silver, and crypto are the best investments you can make. And I think for people that don't have a lot of money, that silver is an excellent, excellent way to put away a little bit every month, or, whatever you do. Oh, wow. Gold is almost $2,000 an ounce now. That is, I believe that's a high. Silver still at $22.84 an ounce. That is amazing to me. And palladium's at $1,100 an ounce. There was a time when palladium was like, I think it was just a little bit more than silver. And silver was like $6 an ounce a long time ago when I first started investing into some of it. And palladium took over where platinum used to be. Platinum used to be 3 times the value of gold. And now it's less than the value of gold. It's $899 an ounce. And so you just never know. And that's why diversity is, in my opinion, the way to go. But I definitely do think that silver is an incredible investment. But again, I think that people should, and this is not financial advice, I'm just sharing my opinion, but that you should take advantage of the next bounce. That I think that crypto is going to go through a slight correction sometime soon. You know, it already gained 21% in 7 days. I mean, that's extraordinary. You know, people think that, you know, the market's over a year returning 7-8% investment, that's extraordinary. And anybody would, you know, that's a win. If you can earn that amount on your money, that's a great blessing indeed. But just think, 20% in 7 days, Bitcoin. And we see moves like that all the time. In the history of Bitcoin, there are huge moves. I mean, you can get 21% in a day sometimes in some cryptocurrencies. And I think we're going to be returning to a time when there's going to be a flood of money entering into the market, and that a lot of cryptocurrencies are going to make and have increases in value like that in a single day. And so if you, again, can learn to read the indicators and you learn about the RSI, the relative strength index, and there's also one chart that you can watch and learn about. It's called the crypto fear and greed index. This will tell you where we are with regard to whether, you know, because when people are in fear, that's when you should be buying. And then when people are in greed or extremely greedy, that's when the markets are overbought and you should sell. And you should do what is contrary to what everybody else is doing. That's why I say that people should take a little bit of profit, take a little bit of money off the table if you have been investing, and go ahead and lock in some profits. Because again, 21% in 7 days, that's a nice little run. Go ahead and, you know, take a little bit of profits here. Go ahead and lock them in. Put it into a stable coin, whatever portion you decide to sell, and just wait. And I feel that we're going to have a correction at some point. And then what you should be doing right now, again, this is not investment advice, but you should be buying the dips. Now that we are returned to a bull market, whenever there is a correction, 10, 6, 7%, buy those dips. That's a strategy I think will work over the run, the bull run. And as momentum is gaining and price is gaining and uh, markets are gaining, you should always, in these times, buy the dip. When you're in a bear market, you want to always sell the tops or sell the whenever there's runs up, like whenever you get 7-8% on your money, that's when you should be moving out and going into stable coins and taking a posture of uh, waiting for the correction and then buying in at those times. But again, I think we're in a place where you should buy the dips. With regard to Bitcoin, just my opinion, not financial advice. All right, let's go ahead and get back into the Apocalypse of Baruch for what is the final segment. Let me make sure that there's no other questions. I do appreciate, and I do want to make sure you get your questions asked and that you have a chance to do so. We will be doing another AMA very soon. And let us continue to pray for the children. All right. I didn't know that, Tammy. She said, the Lord sent me the concealed book of Baruch. That's how I met Zen, and my life changed forever from that point on. That's amazing. Dayton asks, also, do you want to know the rapture view? Zen, also, Stephen Ben Noon was speaking of some Israelis saying the Nephilim were coming to fight with them. Did you see that? I asked him about it. He said he's looking into it. Wow, that's very interesting because there's an individual that I interviewed a very long time ago. His name is Barry Shamish, and he was an investigator for one of the Israeli newspapers a very long time ago, and he wrote a book about the return of the Nephilim, and I believe this was in 1995, if I remember correctly. It was sometime a long time ago. But he was talking about how the Nephilim had visited Israel and they had left footprints and impressions that individuals at different kibbutz, they were witnessed and they reported, spoke about these things, told, called the Israeli, I believe it was Haaretz or, it's one of those newspapers out there. And he was sent to investigate all of this. And he wrote a book about it, and you can find it on Amazon. It's called The Return of the Nephilim. I have one of these books, and it's a very interesting story. You can actually, if the interview is still up on YouTube, you can search Zen Garcia and Barry Shamish and find the interview that I did with him on this information, which was absolutely amazing. But Barry has since passed on, and so that information is priceless. All right. This is chapter 49 through 52 the nature of the resurrection, and the final destinies of the righteous and the wicked from the Apocalypse of Baruch. Nevertheless, I will again ask from you, O mighty one, yea, I will ask who made all things. In what shape will those live who live in your day? Or how will the splendor of those who are after that time continue? Will they then resume this form of the present and put on these entrammeling members which are now involved in evils? And in which evils are consummated, or will you perchance change these things which have been in the world, as also the world? And he answered and he said unto me, Hear, Baruch, this word, and write in the remembrance of your heart all that you shall learn. For the earth shall then assuredly restore the dead, which it now receives in order to preserve them. It shall make no change in their form, but as it has received, so shall it restore them. And as I delivered them unto it, so also shall it raise them. For then it will be necessary to show the living that the dead have come to life again, and that those who had departed have returned again. And it shall come to pass when they have severally recognized those whom they now know, then judgment shall grow strong, and those things which before were spoken of shall come. And it shall come to pass when that appointed day has gone by, that then shall the aspect of those who are condemned be afterwards changed, and the glory of those who are justified. For the aspect of those who now act wickedly shall become worse than it is, as they shall suffer torment. Also, as for the glory of those who have now been justified in my law, who have had understanding in their life, and who have planted in their heart the root of wisdom, then their splendor shall be glorified in changes, and the form of their face shall be turned into the light of their beauty, that they may be able to acquire and receive the world which does not die, which is then promised to them. For over this above all shall those who come then lament that they rejected my law and stopped their ears that they might not hear wisdom or receive understanding. When therefore they see those over whom they are now exalted, but who shall then be exalted and glorified more than they shall respectively be transformed, the latter into the splendor of angels, and the former shall yet more waste away in wonder at the visions and in the beholding of the forms. For they shall first behold, and afterwards depart to be tormented. Let me read that again, because that is very intriguing. Remember, I have been trying to tell people and help them to understand that. Firstly, Adam and Eve were not created in mortal aspect. That they, in original form were bright natured and immortal, meaning that they were angelic in aspect, that they, like the sons of God, pre-existed and had a spiritual embodiment that was not under the authority of death. And that when they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, in the day that you eat or touch thereof, you shall die. And that's exactly what happened. Eve was beguiled. And I was reading this in the book of Josephus earlier today, in the portion Antiquity of the Jews, and where Josephus was talking about the creation of the world, the forming of Adam and Eve, how they had fell. And he cited that Eve was seduced by the serpent, and that this caused her to take on mortal form, and then she used her womanly wiles to seduce Adam in the same manner. And so, as it says in the Gospel of Philip, and of which my good friend Clark had brought up in the DRC, first came adultery and then murder. And that adultery was the seduction of Eve. And then Cain was born, and Cain murdered his brother, half brother, Abel. And so it is. And so we, just as Adam and Eve were once bright natured, Christ told us, remember from whence thou art fallen. And he's saying that because our home was in paradise. That's our former estate. That is our first estate. And that is our glorified form, our bright natures, that we shall be resurrected. Not mortal, but return to our bright nature. And so really quickly again, they shall respectively be transformed, the latter into the splendor of angels, and the former shall yet more waste away in wonder at the visions and in the beholding of the forms, for they shall first behold and afterwards depart to be tormented. But those who have been saved by their works, even though, of course, we know that salvation is through grace and by grace, and that our works cannot save us, but following the commandments, we are instructed to do good for goodness sake, and to perform random acts of kindness, because we are to love even our enemies. So, but those who have been saved by their works, and to whom the law has been now a hope, and understanding and expectation and wisdom, a confidence. I'll be right back. I'm going to take some water. All right. Thank you. I appreciate and love every one of you so much. It's such a great blessing to be here with you. All right, let me read this again. But those who have been saved by their works and to whom the law has been now a hope, and understanding and expectation and wisdom of confidence shall wonders appear in their time. For they shall behold the world which is now invisible to them, and they shall behold the time which is now hidden from them, and time shall no longer age them. For in the heights of that world shall they dwell, and they shall be made like unto the angels, and be made equal to the stars. What does that tell you? That the stars are angels? And they shall be changed into every form they desire, from beauty into loveliness, and from light into the splendor of glory. For there shall be spread before them the extents of paradise, and there shall be shown to them the beauty of the majesty of the living creatures which are beneath the throne, and all the armies of the angels who are now held fast by my word, lest they should appear and are held fast by a command, that they may stand in their places till their advent comes. Moreover, there shall then be excellency in the righteous, surpassing that in the angels. For the first shall receive the last, those whom they were expecting, and the last those of whom they used to hear that they had passed away. For they have been delivered from this world of tribulation, and laid down the burden of anguish. For what then have men lost their life? And for what have those who were on the earth exchanged their soul? For then they choose not for themselves this time, which beyond the reach of anguish could not pass away. But they chose for themselves that time, whose issues are full of lamentations and evils. And they denied the world which ages not those who come to it. And they rejected the time of glory, so that they shall not come to the honor of which I told you before. And I answered and said, how can we forget those for whom woe is then reserved? And why therefore do we again mourn for those who die? Or why do we weep for those who depart to Sheol? Let lamentations be reserved for the beginning of that coming torment, and let tears be laid up for the advent of the destruction of that time. But in the face of these things will I speak, and as for the righteous, what will they do now? Rejoice you in the sufferings which you now suffer? For why do you look for the decline of your enemies? Make ready your soul for that which is reserved for you, and prepare your souls for the reward which is laid up for you. Chapter 53, 54, the Messiah Apocalypse. And this is where we'll end it. The vision of the cloud with black and white waters. Again, chapter 53 and 54. And when I had said these things, I fell asleep there, and I saw a vision, and lo, A cloud was ascending from a very great sea, and I kept gazing upon it. And lo, it was full of waters, white and black, and there were many colors in those selfsame waters, and as it were, the likeness of great lightning was seen at its summit. And I saw the cloud passing swiftly in quick courses, and it covered all the earth, and it came to pass after these things that that cloud began to pour upon the earth, the waters that were in it. And I saw that there was not one, and the same likeness in the waters which descended from it. For in the first beginning they were black and many, or a time, and afterwards I saw that the waters became bright, but they were not many. And after these things again, I saw black waters, and after these things again, bright, and again black, and again bright. Now, this was done 12 times, but the black were always more numerous than the bright, and it came to pass at the end of the cloud that lo, it rained black waters, and they were darker than had been all those waters, and they were that were before. And the fire was mingled with them, and where those waters descended, they wrought devastation and destruction. And after these things I saw how that lightning which I had seen on the summit of the cloud seized hold of it and hurled it to the earth. Now that lightning shone exceedingly so as to illuminate the whole earth, and it healed those regions where the last waters had descended and wrought devastation. And it took hold of the whole earth and had dominion over it. And I saw after these things, and lo, 12 rivers were ascending from the sea, and they began to surround that lightning and to become subject to it. And by reason of my fear, I awoke. The prayer for an interpretation of the vision. Ramiel's advent for this purpose. And I besought the Mighty One and said, You alone, O Lord, know aforetime the deep things of the world and the things which shall befall in their times. You bring about by your word, and against the works of the inhabitants of the earth, you do hasten the beginnings of the times, and the end of the seasons you alone know. You for whom nothing is too hard, but who do everything easily by a nod, you to whom the depths come as the heights, and whose word the beginnings of the ages serve. You who reveal to those who fear you what is prepared for them, that thenceforth they may be comforted. You show great acts to those who know not. You break up the enclosure of those who are ignorant, and lightest up what is dark, and reveal what is hidden to the pure, who in faith have submitted themselves to you and your law. You have shown to your servant this vision. Reveal to me also its interpretation. For I know that as regards those things wherein I besought you, I have received a response. And as regards what I besought you did, reveal to me with what voice I should praise you, and from what members I should cause praises and hallelujahs to ascend to you. For if my members were mouths and the hairs of my head voices, even so I could not give you the reward of praise, nor laud you as is befitting. Nor could I recount your praise, nor tell the glory of your beauty. For what am I amongst men? Or why am I reckoned amongst those who are more excellent than I? That I have heard all these marvelous things from the Most High, and numberless promises from him who created me. Blessed be my mother among those that bear, and praised among women be she that bare me. For I will not be silent in praising the Most High, the Mighty One. And with the voice of praise I will recount his marvelous deeds. All right, I'm going to skip down to where he gives reply. Um, and the treasures of wisdom beneath your throne have you prepared, and justly do they perish. Who have not loved your law, and the torment of judgment shall await those who have not submitted themselves to your power. For though Adam first sinned and brought untimely death upon all, yet of those who were born from him, each one of them has prepared for his own soul torment to come. And again, each one of them has chosen for himself glories to come, for assuredly he who believeth will receive reward. But now, as for you, you wicked that now are turned, you to destruction, because you shall speedily be visited in that formerly you rejected the understanding of the Most High, for his works have not taught you, nor has the skill of his creation, which is at all times persuaded you. All right, here we go, the interpretation. Nevertheless, because you have besought the Most High to reveal to you the interpretation of the vision, which you have seen, I have been sent to tell you. And the Mighty One hath assuredly made known to you the methods of the times that have passed, and of those that are destined to pass in his world, from the beginning of its creation even unto its consummation, of those things which are deceit, and of those which are in truth. For as you did see a great cloud which ascended from the sea, and went and covered the earth, this is the duration of the world, which the Mighty One made when he took counsel to make the world. And it came to pass, when the world had gone from his presence, that the duration of the world had come into being in a small degree, and was established according to the multitude of the intelligence of him who sent it. And as you did previously see on the summit of the cloud black waters which descended previously on the earth, this is the transgression wherewith Adam the first man transgressed. For since when he transgressed, untimely death came into being, grief was named, and anguish was prepared, and pain was created, and trouble consummated, and disease began to be established. And Sheol kept demanding that it should be renewed, and blood and the begetting of children was brought about, and the passion of parents produced. And the greatness of humanity was humiliated, and goodness languished. What therefore can be blacker or darker than these things? This is the beginning of the black waters, which you have seen. And from these black waters again were black derived, and the darkness of darkness was produced. For he became a danger to his own soul, even to the angels. For moreover, at that time when he was created, they enjoyed liberty. And became he a danger, some of them descended and mingled with the women, and then those who did so were tormented in chains. But the rest of the multitude of the angels, of which there is no number, restrained themselves, and those who dwelt on the earth perished together with them through the waters of the deluge. These are the black first waters. And after these waters you did see bright waters. This is the fount of Abraham, also his generation, and the advent of his son and of his son's son, and of those like them. Because at that time the unwritten law was named amongst them, and the works of the commandments were then fulfilled. And belief in the coming judgment was then generated, and hope of the world that was to be renewed was then built up. And the promise of the life that should come hereafter was implanted. These are the bright waters which you have seen, and the black third waters which you have seen. These are the mingling of all sins, which the nations afterwards wrought after the death of those righteous men, and the wickedness of the land of Egypt, wherein they did wickedly in the service wherewith they made their sons to serve. Nevertheless, these also perished at last. And the bright fourth waters which you have seen are the advent of Moshe and Aaron and Miriam and Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb and all those like them. For at that time the lamp of the eternal law shone on all those who sat in darkness, which announced to them that believe the promise of their reward, and to them that deny the torment of fire which is reserved for them. But also the heavens at that time were shaken from their place, and those who were under the throne of the Mighty One were perturbed when he was taking Moshe unto himself. For he showed him many admonitions together with the principles of the law and the consummation of the times, as also to you, and likewise the pattern of Zion, and its measures, in the pattern of which the sanctuary of the present time was to be made. But then also he showed to him the measures of the fire, also the depths of the abyss, and the weight of the winds, and the number of the drops of rain, and the suppression of anger, and the multitude of long suffering, and the truth of judgment, and the root of wisdom, and the riches of understanding, and the fount of knowledge, and the height of the air, and the greatness of paradise, and the consummation of the ages, and the beginning of the day of judgment, and the number of the offerings and the earths which have not yet come, and the mouth of Gehenna, and the station of vengeance, and the place of faith, and the region of hope, and the likeness of future torment, and the multitude of innumerable angels, and the flaming hosts, and the splendor of the lightnings, and the voices of the thunders, and the orders of the chiefs of the angels, and the treasuries of light, and the changes of the times, and the investigations of the law. These are the bright fourth waters which you have seen. We're not going to be able to get through this, but perhaps I will do a third portion and at least finish this vision of the 12 bright and black waters, which lead to the Messiah and to the second advent and to the harvest at the end of the age. You don't need me to read them to you. You can find it, the Apocalypse of Baruch, which is part of the Great Commission 3. You can search for it and find it. I do believe that you can freely find it online. And that was chapter 55 and 56 on the interpretation of the bright and the black waters and the apocalyptic age of the Messiah. Thank you again, everybody. Mama P, Tammy George, Sherry, Papin, Floria, Christine, Jean, Hess. So many new people. It's such an awesome thing to see all of you. Shay, Truth Seeker in His Service. Adrian from Oz. There's so many. Jax, Minnie. Yeah, it's awesome to see so many new people here. And thank you for coming to the reading. I hope it blessed you. And remember, we are reading from the Apocalypse of Baruch. Good night, all. Be blessed. Shalom.